Alright, so I'm doing a little breakdown of a stop motion test I did here. If you watch the video just once, I think you can see the biggest problem. I didn't really understand how much the table was jumping up and down when I was shooting the footage. What I did with this test was I got a large TV screen and put it behind the table. So let me set the pause button here. So this part here, it's TV. Here I've got a table. This table was on wheels and could be lifted up or down. So I think what was happening is as I was working and posing the puppet, I was putting weight on the table with my arms, and that was slightly adjusting the table a little bit because it had some flex. So unknowingly, as I was taking my shots for the stop motion, I didn't notice how much jitter there was because the screen that I was looking at was a little bit further away from the table I was working on. I couldn't really see from that small laptop how much the table was bouncing up and down. If I let it play again, you can really see just how much jitter there is. So a really important lesson, make sure you control everything. To move the puppet around, again, this is just one of the Star Wars The Black Series figures. This is a great looking figure. This is the Shock Trooper. And you can see that what I've been doing down here is just using sticky tack. Good old sticky tack, just to lock the feet to the ground and make sure that the feet don't slip very much. This here is from Sticky Bones. Sticky Bones makes stop motion puppets, and this is the rig that they have. And you can see what I'm using is, again, the sticky tack right here. So I've got a wad of the sticky tack right there, and it's just sort of connected to the end of this rig connector, and it's just pushing into the soft sticky tack there, which I've put to the back of the hip of the character. I was really trying to test sort of a virtual production environment, so projecting a screen. Again, one of the issues when you're using a reflective screen is check how reflective things are in the screen. So behind me, in the office I was working at, there is a window, and that window is connected to another office, and people came in and turned on the lights. So if you look and I scrub through, you can see there's some places where it's on and off. So again, that's a bit annoying that that reflection is gone. Now technically I could go and borrow a frame from there and then repurpose the background, but because of the amount of jitter, this is a horrific amount of work. It's kind of a shot killer, so that's too bad. On the whole, I wasn't too disappointed with working with the figure. I wanted to just do something relatively straightforward, have them walk in from off screen and then stop. And working on 12s, again, as I'm working at 12 frames per second, I think over here, this part, I put in too many frames when I hit the play button. It really does feel like all of a sudden we're going at one speed during the walk. So over here, walking in, walk, 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 that feels a bit rushed. So I think I went a bit too fast here. And again, the spacing, you can see that, I'm right here and then I jump, big spacing, little spacing, and then, a bit bigger and then boom. So a bit of inconsistency. One of the things you need to do with a walk is the character should at least start with linear spacing, and then they're going to slow down. So they would ease in to that resting position over here. So it's a little bit wonky there. Again, just sort of judging the distance. There's a bit of moonwalking happening with the feet. Even though I tried to use the sticky tack, you can see that it's there. And again, maybe the table is contributing as well. So we kind of go from here to there, bouncing around. The next contact looked pretty good, but over here again there's a little bit of foot sliding on this foot here, but again that could be, look at how much the background is moving. Just looking at that, that's contributing to how much drift I'm getting. The other thing that's also important to try to do is to get the support for the figure to be behind. And again, it's going to be tricky to clean this up because of the shadows. Right, there are shadows that are going to intersect with where the rig is, and you have to digitally recreate those. So I still haven't got a good handle on lighting. I'm using very basic lighting setup here, and that's where I really need to spend more time doing more tests and developing a good lighting set. I've got some simple lights that I'm using, but controlling the light and getting good exposure, and then thinking about the back end, how you're going to clean this up. So this was a fun test. It was interesting to use these figures. Again, they do the job, but there's definitely things that are very frustrating about using these kind of action figure toys. They're not really built to hold the poses. And the other thing that you'll experience is like the joints around the knees and the elbows, they do lock at certain points. So they're kind of ratcheted. So that means there's a limited sort of range that you have where they kind of click into place. And then when you try to move them around that range, it's really tough to get them to move. And in some cases, it's even more difficult to lift them up a little bit until you get to the next ratchet point. So it can make it frustrating when you're trying to do really subtle things. Again, I think here I just slowed down too much. I had the right idea, but I think what I would probably have to do is maybe retime this onto 24 frames per second and then do a mix of 2s and 1s. So it'd be a lot like a traditional animation. And that would probably feel a bit weird. Here I just recorded at 12 and I'm playing back at 12 because I didn't want to do that many exposures per second until I knew what I was up against. Really tough to work on 1s at 24 FPS without having a really good setup. And look at that. Look at the difference in the lighting. I don't know what happened here, but you can see like the light really pops right there. So it's like that frame. It's much brighter. I must have turned on a light, or maybe I was blocking a light or did something there. Just that one frame, just its exposure got a little bit out of sync from the others. But the nice thing about the figures is that they do look really amazing. They photograph well. The challenge is that, yeah, as a stop motion puppet, there's certainly limitations. Not exactly an ideal setup, but still a fun test. So take-home messages. Next time, lock the table and make sure nothing moves. Control as much as you can in stop motion. It's really frustrating. I think if you can just avoid bumping your camera and keeping your set on a really stable weighted platform, you're going to be ahead of the game, having this thing bounce around so much. So the table was, I thought, a really great, ingenious place to work because you could lift it up. It was on wheels. I could put up against the wall. Very convenient to roll around, but unfortunately locking it in place, I had no idea how much travel there was going to be just vertically. So lesson learned, next time I do a test, different table.